Hi everyone, Merry Christmas! I'm going to be talking about my favorite books for saxophone students and for myself as I've gone through my journey of playing the saxophone and learning different types of music. So if you need some last minute Christmas presents for any saxophone players that you know, these are all going to be great options to get them. So the first book that I would recommend to any beginner as well as those who are getting more into the intermediate level of playing is this Advanced Method Saxophone Volume 1 book. They also have beginner levels, but any of them are really great. This one comes with, in the very first page, an outline of all of the saxophone fingerings, which is really helpful for beginners who need to reference, especially those lower notes that can be hard to remember or the very high notes. There's also this practice chart that is more organized and structured if you want to keep track of that every week and divide it by semesters as they have here. And then it immediately gets into scales and arpeggios, starting with C major, and then quickly it starts introducing new rhythms like triplets and then 16th notes. This is just a really good way to get new saxophone students on the ground running, and they tend to retain a lot of it because they can go back and practice these exercises as many times as they need to. Then finally, in the end of the book, they have a lot of great etudes you can work on, and any of these would be great if you're doing solo and ensemble in your high school or just want something full that you can present and perform at a recital or something like that. The second book that I tell my students to get is Jazz Conception for Saxophone by Lenny Niehaus. They have beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and these are really great for starting to learn jazz articulation, jazz sight reading, and just getting a feel for how jazz is written and the different rhythms and styles that come along with that. It's also really great because it does come with a CD play along, which can be really fun for students to work on. And they just have a lot of really great etudes. They have etudes in 3/4, in 4/4, and different tempos and styles, and it'll just help students to start to get a feel into what it might be like if they're reading in a big band or something like that. The beginner and intermediate books of the Jazz Conceptions for Saxophone goes over a lot of specific phrases and articulation styles that they might see coming up repeatedly, and that can give you a really great foundation as well. The next book that I still go back to even after playing for 10 years is the Omnibooks. This is the Cannonball Adderley one, but they also have ones for pretty much every great jazz player. There's Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Sonny Rollins. There's also piano players if you like that, or basically any instrument. And these just have all of their transcriptions, which are really great for getting into more of that player's solos. And it can be great for learning licks, understanding what the chord changes are for the different songs that they're playing. It's also great if you're trying to practice sight reading, and just a lot of gold nuggets all over these Omnibooks. So I'd highly recommend getting one of these. They last a really long time and they're really high quality. Now, I've mentioned sight reading a couple times, and that's because I think it's just such an important skill to have. And for beginners and intermediate players in high school and junior high, this is going to place you really highly in your auditions. And once you're starting to play for gigs, if sight reading is a component, it's always an important skill to have mastered. So another book I really like to practice that with is this Jazz Conception book by Jim Snidero. And it also has a really high quality play along that can be fun for students, and a lot of different etudes with chord changes as well. And again, like the Niehaus book, it is really helpful for getting a feel for jazz articulation and jazz language when you're reading it like this. The next book I want to talk about is this 251 progression book. And this one really has a lot of gold for basically any level that you're at. If you're a beginner, it has a nice play along that can be really helpful for just getting your feet into what it's like to improvise over a 251. One page in this book that I think is a really helpful reference is the scale syllabus page, which lists all of the different chord qualities, what scale name can be played over that chord quality, the construction of it, so like whole, whole, half if it was major, and then what it would look like in the scale in the key of C. And so basically anything you could ever need to know, like I don't know what chord scale to play over, a D minor 7. You could find all of that information here, which is really helpful. This book also has a lot of great general patterns that you might need for when you're improvising. For example, it goes over 1, 2, 3 on a D minor 7, then 1, 2, 3 on a G7, then 1, 2, 3 on a C major 7. So just learning these 2-5-1s is super helpful with this book. I've even heard Michael Brecker use this book a lot, so I'd highly recommend this for any student who's looking to start learning about jazz vocabulary and improvising in jazz. I also wanted to throw in here just an example of a higher level classical piece that you could work on. This is the sonata for alto saxophone, the Creston Sonata, and I played this in high school. It has all 3 different movements with the piano accompaniment. So the reason I include this is just because whether you are wanting to be a full-time jazz player or not, learning classical is always really helpful just to get a firm foundation of technique, tonguing, beautiful tone, and working with an accompanist will also help you make sure that you're in charge of your time feel. And I really learned a lot by working on sonatas and etudes and different pieces of classical music like this one. If you're looking for other pieces of classical music besides the Creston Sonata, there's also the Glazunov Concerto, there's the Ibert Concertino de Camera, and basically there's tons of different ones you can look at, and these will all be really helpful just for getting that great foundation in tone, articulation, classical playing, playing with accompanist, etc. The last book I have for you might surprise you a little bit, considering that it's typically more for drummers. Advanced Funk Studies by Rick Latham, or Latham, I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly. But this book is included in this video just because I think it's important for any musician to have an understanding of the drums and of time feel and rhythm, and to be always working on it. You can even buy your own pair of drumsticks and just practice with a drum pad. And also, if you're interested in writing, this will help give you a great idea of what it looks like to write for drums. And it just has a lot of basic rhythms that you can practice, but it gets more advanced as you go on, obviously. And so this can be really great just for helping you understand that time feel. Here you can see all of the different notation for writing for drums, and working on your time every day is going to really help you in the long run. So that's all of the books I have for you today. If you can think of any that I've forgotten, go ahead and leave it down in the comments. I'd love to hear what books really helped you in your journey of becoming a better musician. And I hope that this video was helpful to you. Let me know which book you're going to consider getting, and I'll have all of the links below in my description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.